So, how long did the Institute of Study of Man run for? Because your work has moved on now. So there must have been a time when what you were doing there came to an end. You went through another transition in your life.
What I learned is that everything needs to evolve. Otherwise it just becomes stagnant and it dies in a way.
Okay.
And what actually happened with the Institute is that my then long-time partner and I decided to get married.
Right.
We now had all the tools, and we were now going to jump into the unknown, and off we were going to sail off into the sunset, as people do. But because of what I'd learned about the relationship between a male and a female, mostly, first of all, what I'd learned about the woman, let me just say woman for example, woman, in the first instance, we have a duality about us, and that's we are both mother as well as female. And all of us know exactly how to mother.
Yes.
But none of us have a clue how to female.
Yes.
And that's precisely what I'd done in every single romantic relationship I ever had. Business was a little bit different because, you know, when it's not all that personal, you don't have to land up mothering the males around you within a working environment. But in a romantic relationship, that mother side of the woman is just instinctive. So it's what we know and that's what we do.
Yes.
So we tend to just take over where the male's mother left off. And we can't understand why he's like a walking volcano.
Yes.
Resisting everything that we actually bring to the table. The fire's nicely lit if you look at it. But what I had learned through the process, because there was a time in my life when I was just pressurizing the then fellow that I was with to get married and have babies. I was about 29 years old. And whether it was biological clock or whatever, I probably perceived it at that stage. But really, really pushing to get married and have babies. And then at some point in time, I must have slipped over into 30 or something like that. I think I looked at this fellow and I thought, no, this is crazy. What I subsequently learned through working with Théun, that every female, and I know I'm generalizing now, but I'm sure every female will get to a point in her life where, and this is where we so often misconstrue it, that it's a baby that we want.
Yes.
Where we want a male in our lives who has a purpose, and that purpose mirrors our purpose. So in other words, I've come here to this planet for a reason. I've got a purpose to unfold, to fulfill. And so if I'm actually going to ally myself to a male, I'll be crazy to link myself in behind a male whose purpose isn't the same as mine. So I guess you better call me crazy, because I did that often enough.
Yes.
And I found many other females have done that as well. We fall in love with the potential, you know, and then when the potential doesn't unfold, well, you know, everything all ends up in a mess.
Right.
But what we haven't been taught is that if we're going to invest in a male, then he must have the same purpose as us, because it is to him that we must actually go, and to nurture his purpose. And there's got to be something in it for us to do that.
Yes.
And that's because we are unfolding our own purpose, but together with the male.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean to say we're going to be married.
Right.
And that was a big wake-up call for me.
Right.
So, to go back to what you were saying about the Institute and the change in my life, is that I realized that if I actually continued with the Institute on my own, and that wasn't what made Théun's heart sick. Yes, he was totally involved in it, but he knew that as a male, he had to actually grow his own business.
Yes.
It had to be his business, and it had to be his creation. And for me, if I'm going to unfold my own purpose, it must be through that. In other words, we must marry our businesses, as well as getting married.
Yes.
And that's what we did.
Yes.
And that was such an uplifting part of my life. It really was.
Really.
In doing that, it was devastating for me to let the Institute for the Study of Men go at that point in time.
Yes.
But I also understood that as I was evolving, I needed to start doing things differently. So what we did is we actually decided to take Théun's business and to use it as an upliftment project to create some sort of a blueprint for businesses, and in South Africa at that point in time. So we started recruiting these young 17, 18-year-olds. Most of who'd never had a job before. And there was method in our madness in that. It was because we wanted to teach them right from the beginning our way of doing things.
Right.
And why I say it was a really uplifting time for me. I'd been in the business world for a long, long time.
Yes.
But this was the first time when I was leaping out of bed every morning with a song in my heart. Couldn't wait to get to work.
Gosh, that's a wonderful
Because just putting that investment into those young people, and we had some older ones as well, but we gave them the teachings. We actually gave them these practical tools that they could take home to their families and their communities, and they could actually spread them. And these people used to sing all day at work. It was unheard of for me to be in an environment like that. And with that, the business just took off. It was quite incredible, because our approach was, if we look after the people will look after the business.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. It was really just such an uplifting time in my life to find a new way to do business.
Working personally within the business concept?
Yes. You know, I'd come back into the business world again, but now in a completely different way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, showing how all of your experience has been brought to bear on the teaching work that you do.
Yeah. It was different from being in a course room and facilitating people. It was now I was actually in there.
Yes.
And actually watching it happening right in front of me on a daily basis. Just watching that growth. The mirror was, as I say, very uplifting. Very uplifting.
And Elizabeth, you've never stopped working very closely with Théun. Are you planning to do courses in the future, or where are you planning to take your work to?
Well, all the way through that whole experience, going back into the business world, Théun was always there. You know, he was always there guiding, and I mean, there were weird and wonderful situations that would happen. There would be people who were dodging bullets on the way to work every day, our staff members. In one case, the fellow was actually shot for one Friday night.
Really?
And during the struggle in South Africa, the struggle years, Théun had been in education. So he'd also worked in all these areas where I was now. And so he could also give me guidance as to how to deal with these people.
Okay.
There was no point in for example, giving them the technique to handle fear. When they're about to dodge a bullet. You know, it was very different guidance for that sort of thing. So he was always close by, guiding and giving his input and his knowledge, always very freely and generously. And I'd like to think by my passing it on, there's a bit of return of investment for him too.
Sure.
And so where we are today, you probably see I can't hold back on my excitement. We're about to launch the courses again.
Fantastic. I'm also sitting on the edge of my chair. Please share some more, Elizabeth.
Ted and I have been talking long and hard about this for some time, and I've never really wanted to get excited about it, because every now and again it's about to happen and then it doesn't. But he knows that my heart sings when I'm out there helping people to help themselves.
Yes.
You may have gathered by now, I'm a pretty reluctant leader. But I've never been able to avoid it in any way whatsoever.
I'm starting to get the impression as if you love it from everything that you've shared.